welcome back to my channel. I'm glad that you've come back and I welcome you. Just want to thank you for persisting with me while I get used to using the video and using YouTube. It is kind of hard doing a reading with the camera involved because it does create a different energy field, a different sort of resonance that I'm actually surprised how hard it is to kind of work around and distinguish between what's coming in, what's me, and what's the camera. So I'm just grateful that you're here and that you're giving me the opportunity to keep going and that you're sticking with it. Today I'm going to follow up on the reading that I did the other day regarding the situation between a woman called Jodi Arias and a man that she murdered called Travis Alexander. I've been dialing into Mr. Alexander over the past couple of days. I have been thinking about doing this reading, but there have been a few sort of obstacles probably related to what's happening here in Australia, in my country at the moment, in terms of we've got some bushfires going on and there's some pretty frenetic energy around. But yeah, I spoke to Mr. Alexander this morning. I dialed into him, had a little chat, got to kind of feel his energy. The first takeaway from that was that he had no idea that this was coming for him. He had no idea that she was going to do this. He was really shocked. Now that he's been over the other side for a few years, quite a few years, he's accepting his responsibility. He's accepting his part in the scenario. Obviously, I'm not blaming him. He was the victim. She exerted her will on him in the most fundamental of ways. But he does accept that he was in a relationship with her that just wasn't healthy, wasn't stable, and he just got drawn into that, and this was the outcome. And he does miss his family. He really acknowledges that that's been the hardest thing for him, is to leave his family, because he felt quite responsible for them in some ways. But yeah, he's found his peace there on the other side now, and this is quite far behind him. And so in that respect, I appreciate that he's allowing me to talk to him and dredge this back up. So with that, I'm going to go straight into the reading. What I'm looking at today is what was happening for him in his life around the time that he was murdered by this woman. I'm just, not a specific question, but more just like what was going on for him, where was his mind at, what was his trajectory in life, and where was he at. So we're going to do a Lenormand reading, because that does give us some little bit of insight into people's mentality, but also just into the basic day-to-day kind of living. So I still don't have the tripod, sorry about that. So I have shuffled the cards, and yeah, let's just get right into it now. Okay, so we've got the fish, so we've got a flow of money. We've got the clover, we've got some luck or hope or chance, and a key. So there's a chance to open the doorway to a new flow of wealth. We've got the cross, which can be a burden or a religious institution. We've got the star, which can be our wildest dreams or give us some clarity. And okay, so we've got the tower, which is also an institution. So there's some clarity around this institution. It's his bit of a cross to bear though. And we've got crossroads, new path in life. The fox, which can be work, or it can also just be somebody who's quite cunning and somebody who's good with their words, good with their thoughts and ideas, quick on the mark, clever. And the ship, which is a journey or navigating. All right, so let's have a look at this first up. All right, Travis, in your life at the time, you're showing me that basically you'd come to a crossroads. This is what he knew. This is what was apparent to him, because it was either in the recent past, but it was obvious to him this is what was happening. This is what he was thinking about. This is the past. This is his present, and this was his future at the time. And this is sort of just where he was at within himself. So this, where he was grounded. He'd obviously taken a new pathway. He'd used his cunning, his cleverness, his ability with words and ideas to navigate his way to this pathway. This pathway could have been a spiritual pathway, but it could also just relate to it being a little bit of a burden for him to create his financial situation. But there is a stream of financial flow. It's good. It's coming and going nicely. So he had kind of found this pathway. He'd drawn on he'd navigated his way through situations. He'd drawn on his cleverness, if that's a word, to navigate this pathway. There was a little bit of a burden to bear, but it was ultimately okay, because perhaps the pathway actually had to do with his religious institution that he was part of, and it's created this nice financial flow for him. At the time, he was focused on his religious, being part of his religion. It was both, he probably had actually reached some clarity about his position within this institution, and it may have felt like a little bit of a burden to bear, but it also opened a doorway for him to navigate his way up into his financial position. So that's where that's what his focus was on at the time he was murdered. He was relying, he was aware that he had this skill within his workplace. He had this skill in his workplace, and it gave him clarity, and it also helped him have hope, and probably brought him a little bit of luck, which is nice. And what he was thinking about was finding the key to some additional wealth, an additional flow of wealth, which really I think does come through his relationship with his church. And in terms of his future, what he was looking at, what the universe was sort of bringing out for him, or setting up for him, was a new journey through this institution, a new journey that was going to open up some more doors for him. And his wildest dreams were related to this. And this was kind of the pathway that relates to the pathway that he'd come to, the fork in the road that he'd come to, which is interesting. This luck up here, this little bit of luck that he's come into, also relates to taking this new pathway and navigating this journey, navigating this pathway here. And it had brought him some financial recompense, which is nice for him. So the major thing that we're not seeing here is a woman. Really the focus here is on gaining some clarity for him. He was in a place now where things were becoming clearer to him. And also what was becoming clearer to him was pursuing his wildest dreams, and sort of pursuing the things that made him happiest and that he felt most comfortable with. And certainly we don't see a woman in here at all. What we see is financial. This is what his mind is, financial flow. He's thinking about drawing down some luck. He's thinking about what is going to open up some new doors for him. He's hopeful about this. He's feeling good about it. Definitely his religious affiliation, he sees that. He's thinking about that as a doorway to additional wealth. And he's also thinking about perhaps taking a new journey or taking a new pathway through his religious affiliation. But there's no women here. He's not thinking about a woman at all. So I'm just going to add a card to this. Okay, so here we have a relationship. We do have a little bit of a relationship on the mind up here. And some correspondence, some written correspondence. Could be an email, a letter, but it's written. And what have we got down here? Okay, a friend, someone loyal to him. Someone loyal to him, a good friend, someone that he can rely on and who's loyal. And this is what's supporting him. Okay, and a union, a contract. I'm going to say this is a contract rather than a romantic union, even though we've got the heart up here. I think this heart is actually more relative to this friendship, this relationship. This heart up here is actually related to his religious affiliation. It's related to this religious institution. It's not, I'm not seeing a relationship here in terms of a woman, even though the ring is here. This has more to do with opening up opportunities for him, financial opportunities for him, and it's directly related to this friend. So what was happening for him at the time was that this friend was encouraging his verbal dexterity, his mental dexterity, to achieve his wildest dreams, to get some clarity and to bring him some more hope about how he's going to achieve his financial goals within the new pathway that he's taken, that he's navigating in his institution. And there's a contract here. He's either signed a contract or he's been offered a contract. And this is everything that was on his mind at the time of the murder. So we see here that he wasn't thinking about that woman at all. He wasn't thinking about Jodi at all. And even in this contract, we can see that he sees hope in this contract, and he's going to use his verbal skills, his mind, his quick mind, to make it a contract that suits him. And that the relationship, the union here, the agreement that they come to is going to be beneficial for him, and it's going to bring him luck. So this is what was on his mind. He wasn't thinking about her at all, which is really interesting. Okay, so let's see if we can actually find in the deck where she is. Where's the woman in this deck? Woman. Where's the woman in this deck? Fuck, this is so hard with one hand. Sorry, dudes. I'll get a tripod soon, I promise. Where's the woman? There she is. So we've got the woman. What's on her side of her? We've got 3 cards this side of her. There she is. And 3 cards the other side of her. Okay. Right, so we've got the woman. Okay, so what he's thinking about her. Let's just see her. This is Jodi, the woman who murdered him. Okay, she's an obstacle to his sense of security, and he cut it off quick with her. He's had a message that's revealed her true nature to him. And that nature is that she's a gossip. Okay, so this makes sense because the relationship that they had was quite clandestine, in that he didn't want anybody in his church to know what was going on between them and the intimacy that they had together, because it was quite detrimental to his my God, what's the word? His or to how people thought of him, his reputation. Oh my God, thanks. His reputation, thanks, Travis. His reputation in the church, it was detrimental. So he'd cut it off with her because his sense of security, his sense of feeling himself, she was the obstacle to that, and so he's cut her off. And it potentially related to a message that he heard about her true nature coming to the fore, and realizing that she was actually a gossip and that she could be quite detrimental to him in terms of that church. So let's quickly just have a little look at what we did the other day, look at what she was thinking around the time of the murder. But let's see what she has to say about this for her energy. Okay, so she was feeling liberated from something. From a father energy, from a restrictive energy, from somebody who's quite serious, devout, good at what they do. Oh, and there she is, Cancerian. So she's feeling about returning to herself, being liberated from him, returning to herself. Yeah, and the House card. So she's returning to her sense of herself, her stability. Okay, and she's feeling that something needs to be righted, that there's been an injustice that she needs to right. And it's all business. She's down to business. Her brain is ticking. Okay, and whatever she's thinking about, she's seeing it as the light at the end of the tunnel for her. Okay, and there's potentially some wealth coming her way, or she sees it as a new avenue to create some wealth or finances for herself. Also could relate to a message. Okay, and she's nurturing. She needs to be nurtured now. So she doesn't want to nurture this relationship anymore. She doesn't want to nurture this anymore. She wants to look at herself. She's nurturing herself now. Okay, and she's come to a choice. She's got a choice. Is she just going to retreat? Is she going to be philosophical about it? Or is she going to take action? Is she going to strike out, go on a journey? Okay, and she explores this union. She explores the journey in this union. And she's going to draw on all her skills. And it's going to become a social situation. She's going to end up in prison. She's really going to end up in prison. Now she's really going to end up in prison. There she is. She's brought this on herself. Yep, and now she's experiencing the winter. She's experiencing the fallout. It's a barrenness. There's nothing there for her. And she's just going to have to use her imagination now, because she's locked away. She's her own destructive self. All right, well, okay, I think that's where we'll end this one. I think it's pretty clear in this, though, that at the time of Travis's murder, he wasn't thinking about her at all. He was just sort of focused on his work. He was focused on a way forward. He'd signed a new contract, or was considering signing a new contract, and he was, and it related to his church. He had the support of really good friends and a relationship there, which was going to help him achieve even greater financial success. He was looking forward to this. He was looking forward to navigating this, to putting into practice his skills that he'd achieved. He was feeling quite hopeful about it. And yeah, she was the furthest thing from his mind. And really no women were on his mind. He was more concerned with his financial situation. So yeah, all right. I hope this has been enlightening, and I hope it's been interesting for you. This is the second video in this series, and I'll be back with some more exploration. There's something else that I want to talk to him about, and when I get to that point, I'll post it. So namaste and amor fati. Cheers.